At a time when so many people are obsessed with looking rich, powerful, and influential, Kendrick Lamar seems completely focused on building real power behind the scenes, and what he's putting together right now is becoming impossible to ignore. In fact, that reality has never been clearer than it is today, with this brand new partnership involving the NBA. We're not just talking about another celebrity collaboration either. We're talking about something significant enough to have longtime basketball fans and even some major figures around the league paying very close attention. Some people have even joked that the league is choosing the pgLang vision over the OVO brand, and you already know that conversation comes with a whole lot of baggage attached to it. Now, before we get deeper into all of this, I need to quickly point something out because this video is actually connected to something I've been working on myself. As you can probably tell, this upload is a collaboration with my brand new second channel. That's where I'll be spending a lot more time talking about another passion of mine that many of you already know I follow closely: basketball and the NBA. So if my content has ever brought you value, I have one favor to ask. Just help me get this new channel off the ground. Let's see if we can hit 10 subscribers, then 20, and honestly, why stop there? Let's push for 100 before this video is over and show some love to the basketball community we're building. Trust me, there are some really exciting things coming that I think you're going to enjoy. I'll give you a second. Go hit that subscribe button. It's right there for a reason. This crossover is happening for a reason too, and honestly, the timing couldn't feel any more perfect. You're telling me that right as I'm launching a basketball-focused channel, Kendrick Lamar and the NBA decide to announce a massive partnership centered on one of the most talked-about projects in sports and media? That's already wild enough. But it gets even crazier when you realize that not only is Stephen Curry connected to this situation, but reports and reactions behind the scenes suggest certain people in Drake's circle aren't exactly thrilled about how some of these relationships are playing out. And believe me, that's only scratching the surface of what's really happening here. Once you start examining how Kendrick Lamar and the NBA have become increasingly connected, one detail immediately stands out above everything else. The first major question becomes, who helped build this bridge between both worlds, and who has been at the center of making it happen from the league side? The answer is none other than Kyrie Irving. When you think about it, it actually makes perfect sense because both Kendrick and Kyrie have built reputations around being unapologetically authentic within their own spaces. After all, Kendrick has referenced Kyrie before on projects like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and those mentions carried far more meaning than the typical athlete shoutouts that usually appear in rap songs. Those references were often tied to larger conversations and deeper themes rather than simple name drops. So seeing Kyrie take on the role of narrator for this NBA Players Association short film, which is now premiering at Cannes, makes this collaboration feel even more meaningful. And make no mistake, that's a massive accomplishment on every level. What makes the project even more impressive is the amount of talent involved. Kyrie may be narrating the film, but names like Stephen Curry, Jalen Brunson, Jaylen Brown, Karl Anthony Towns, Gabe Vincent, and numerous other players all contributed to bringing this vision together. The level of participation alone tells you how seriously everyone involved viewed this project. Creatively, this piece feels incredibly powerful from start to finish. The visual style immediately resembles the cinematic direction Kendrick Lamar has been developing through his GNX era and the broader pgLang aesthetic. Some of the shots almost feel like they could have come directly from visuals such as Baby Keem's Good Flirt work with Kendrick and Dave Free, or even the visual language used in Kendrick and SZA's Luther video. The difference is that this time the storytelling is being driven through Kyrie's narration while featuring a combination of current NBA champions, rising stars, and legendary figures from across the league. When you put everything together, the result feels far bigger than a simple promotional film. The visuals are impressive, the narration is compelling, and the overall message carries real weight. But what becomes even more interesting is understanding why the players themselves were reportedly so determined to bring Kendrick Lamar and his company, Project 3 Agency, into the fold for this project. And once you hear the reasoning behind that decision, you'll understand why so many people are paying attention right now. So listen carefully to this quote. That quote honestly tells you everything you need to understand about why this partnership happened in the first place. When you look around the entertainment industry and ask who has built one of the strongest direct relationships with their audience without relying on constant gimmicks or outside validation, Kendrick Lamar is always going to be near the top of that list. The Players Association essentially explained that their goal is to create a brand that genuinely reflects the athletes themselves without unnecessary gatekeepers standing between them and the people they serve. And once you hear that, it becomes crystal clear why Kendrick Lamar, Dave Free, and their entire creative team were selected to help bring this vision to life. This isn't simply another commercial or promotional campaign celebrating athlete empowerment. What makes this different is that the players are actively trying to redefine how influence, ownership, and opportunity work within modern sports. They're looking ahead instead of looking back, and they want someone involved who actually lives by the same principles they're promoting. That's where Kendrick becomes such a natural fit. For those who may not know, the players are launching an entirely new brand platform of their own, and Kendrick is helping shape the rollout from the ground up. What's interesting is that if you've been paying attention to Kendrick's recent moves, especially following his latest album, the direction he's heading personally mirrors exactly what these athletes are trying to accomplish professionally. While many people are just now talking about independence and ownership, Kendrick has already been operating that way for years. He's evolved into a self-contained creative force, executive, strategist, and entrepreneur all wrapped into one. That's a huge reason why his team is capable of producing something this polished and impactful. It's why this trailer looks the way it does. It's why the visuals feel so intentional. It's also why so many players across the league seem genuinely excited to be attached to this project. At the center of everything is a major business venture called Players United, a new NBA players company created by players themselves. And if you're unfamiliar with it, the mission is actually pretty straightforward but incredibly ambitious. Players United is designed as a direct-to-consumer platform that allows athletes to showcase products, businesses, and ventures they're building without having to depend on traditional middlemen. From superstar names at the top of the league to role players grinding every season, the goal is to create opportunities across the board. In simple terms, it's a platform built by players and for players. The entire purpose is to give them more control over their brands, their businesses, and ultimately their futures. What's especially fascinating is that when it came time to find creative leadership for this new chapter, they didn't turn to a traditional advertising agency. Instead, they partnered with arguably the biggest rapper in the world, and Dave Free, the creative architect who has helped shape so much of Kendrick's visual identity over the years. And when you really think about it, the reasoning makes perfect sense. Over the past year, and arguably over the last several years, Kendrick has consistently demonstrated why people are willing to follow his lead. You don't build this level of trust, influence, and credibility by accident. And I'd imagine that conversations happening behind closed doors between people like Kendrick, Kyrie Irving, and maybe even Stephen Curry are helping push these ideas even further. Because all of them seem to be thinking beyond the next season, the next album, or the next headline. Kendrick now has his own label, his own production company, and increasing control over every aspect of his creative ecosystem. Meanwhile, if you compare that approach to artists who constantly live online, dominate social media feeds, and remain in the spotlight every single day, the contrast couldn't be more obvious. Some narratives would have people believe Kendrick isn't active unless he's releasing music or making public appearances. Others even try to paint him as someone simply following industry instructions behind the scenes. But once you actually examine the facts, that argument falls apart pretty quickly. The reality is that Kendrick has become one of the most independent and self-directed figures not only in hip-hop, but across entertainment as a whole. And that may explain why we've heard relatively little from him publicly this year. While everyone else is focused on visibility, Kendrick appears focused on infrastructure. While others are chasing attention, he's building systems, and that's a completely different game. At the same time, while Drake remains constantly visible through releases, social media activity, and headline-generating moments, Kendrick seems to be operating on a separate track entirely. Whether people agree with it or not, the difference in strategy is impossible to miss. Kendrick has quietly positioned himself as a powerful executive voice behind the scenes, securing carefully selected partnerships like the one we're seeing with the NBA Players Association. These aren't random collaborations, they're partnerships built around shared values, shared goals, and long-term vision. When Kendrick speaks about people like Kyrie Irving, you get the sense that he sees reflections of his own mindset. He sees individuals who want greater ownership over their work, their message, and their future. He sees people pushing toward the same type of freedom and control that he has spent years creating for himself. And now, with Kendrick expanding his company, while NBA players push for more influence over their own brands and ventures, we're watching the foundation being laid for something much bigger than a single campaign. We're watching the construction of systems designed to create long-term influence, ownership, and potentially generational wealth. The amount of opportunity that could come from moves like this is honestly difficult to fully grasp right now. Years from now, when artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, and creators look back at moments like these, they may realize that people such as Kendrick Lamar and Kyrie Irving helped push an entirely different blueprint into the mainstream. A blueprint where creators aren't simply participating in the game anymore. They're owning the game, controlling the infrastructure, and building businesses on their own terms. And if that vision continues to grow, the impact could stretch far beyond music or sports and reshape entire industries. When I look at Kendrick Lamar's trajectory, from dominating major cultural moments like the Super Bowl to expanding his influence through ventures like pgLang and Project 3, one thing becomes incredibly clear. His ambitions extend far beyond making music. In fact, that's probably the biggest takeaway from everything we're seeing right now. While some people have wondered why Kendrick hasn't been as publicly visible lately, the answer may be much simpler than they think. He's operating at a level where he's planting seeds across multiple industries and creating pathways that could generate long-term opportunities for countless people. That's not the work of someone taking time off. That's the work of someone building an empire. And when you compare today's environment to what existed decades ago, the difference is staggering. The average rapper or NBA player simply didn't have the same opportunities to launch independent brands, control their own businesses, or directly own their audience relationships. If someone managed to do it, they were usually viewed as a rare exception. Today, however, Kendrick appears to be pushing toward a future where that kind of ownership becomes normal rather than extraordinary. That's a completely different conversation. What's especially interesting is how this contrasts with some of the messaging we hear elsewhere in entertainment. In hip-hop, there are still people who believe major label structures are the safest route, and that creators should focus primarily on existing systems instead of building their own. Kendrick's actions seem to be sending a different message entirely. It's almost as if he's saying that if certain parts of the music industry aren't ready to embrace this model, there are plenty of other spaces willing to explore it. And judging by the NBA's willingness to partner with him, that strategy may already be paying off. That's what makes this entire situation so fascinating. When I look at everything Kendrick has built throughout the Gen X era and beyond, it's becoming harder to ignore the larger picture. Once you move past the constant headlines, social media debates, and endless attempts to drag every discussion back into old rivalries, a much bigger story starts to emerge. The real story isn't about beef anymore. The real story is about infrastructure, ownership, and influence. And because of that, I think we're beginning to see where Kendrick's long-term legacy could ultimately land. Some people may disagree, but it's becoming increasingly possible that he develops into this generation's version of Jay-Z when it comes to business leadership, influence, and creating opportunities for the people around him. The difference, however, may be in the execution. Kendrick appears to be combining business-minded strategy with a creator-first vision that emphasizes ownership and accessibility in a way that feels unique to his generation. What makes that balance so compelling is that he's trying to find a middle ground many people never reach. On one side, you have creators who completely reject traditional systems and eventually run into major limitations. On the other side, you have creators who become so intertwined with large corporations that they lose control of their original vision. Kendrick seems to be determined to avoid both outcomes. Instead, he's building structures that empower creators while still maintaining independence and flexibility. That's not to take anything away from Jay-Z either. His impact on music, sports, and business is undeniable, and many of the opportunities available today exist because of groundwork laid by figures like him. But even some of the most successful parts of his empire remain connected to larger corporate ecosystems and major partnerships. What we're seeing from Kendrick and Dave Free through ventures like pgLang and Project 3 feels different. These aren't just brands attached to a larger machine, they are the machine. They control the direction, they make creative decisions, they determine the partnerships, and perhaps most importantly, they've built their foundation in a way that gives them leverage without forcing them to surrender ownership. That's a position very few people ever achieve. It allows them to pursue opportunities without compromising their identity or changing their message simply because a bigger check is being offered. Kendrick has spoken before about how difficult the process of building independence can be. The road hasn't always been smooth, and becoming the executive he wanted to become clearly required years of patience, mistakes, and strategic decisions. But now we're seeing the results. We're seeing those plans turn into real businesses, real partnerships, and real influence. That's something worth recognizing, regardless of where someone stands as a fan. Yet somehow, that part of the conversation rarely receives the same attention as the drama. The headlines often focus on controversy while overlooking the actual work being done behind the scenes. That's unfortunate, because what Kendrick is demonstrating right now is a practical example of living by the principles he's talked about for years. A lot of people speak about ownership. Very few actually build it. And that's why collaborations with figures like Kyrie Irving stand out. When you look at Kyrie's recent success with his own ventures, his growing influence outside basketball, and the broader movement toward player-controlled opportunities, you begin to notice a pattern. More athletes and creators are realizing they don't have to wait for permission anymore. They can build their own platforms, their own businesses, and their own opportunities. So when I step back and look at this entire partnership, what really stands out is the collection of people involved. You've got Stephen Curry continuing to expand his business footprint, Kyrie Irving finding success through his own independent ventures, Kendrick Lamar building an increasingly powerful creative ecosystem, Dave Free helping shape the vision behind it all, and numerous other influential figures contributing to the movement. And when all of those pieces come together at the same time, it starts to feel like we're witnessing the beginning of something much larger than a simple partnership announcement. Years from now, I genuinely believe people are going to look back at figures like Kendrick Lamar, Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry, and others involved in movements like this as case studies in business schools. These are the kinds of individuals redefining what's possible for creators, athletes, entrepreneurs, and visionaries who want to build something on their own terms. Especially in an era where direct-to-consumer businesses are becoming more powerful than ever, the blueprint they're creating right now could influence an entire generation. And honestly, watching these moves unfold in real time is pretty inspiring. Hearing about the way they're operating behind the scenes, seeing Kendrick help push these ideas forward alongside NBA players, and watching people embrace ownership at a higher level has motivated me personally as well. It reminded me that sometimes the biggest obstacle standing between you and your goals is simply taking that first step. That's actually a big reason why I finally decided to move forward with launching my new channel. So, if you've been enjoying the content and want to support what we're building, definitely consider subscribing and helping me take that next step toward a vision I've been wanting to pursue for a long time. Seriously, go show some love to Fantastic Hoops. It's a project I've wanted to dedicate more time to for a while now, but like many people chasing a dream, I've had moments where I made excuses or kept pushing things off. Not anymore. We're finally making it happen. And don't worry, this channel isn't going anywhere either. Everything you've come here for will continue exactly as before. But getting back to the bigger picture for a moment, one thing this Kendrick Lamar story should remind all of us is that you can never be too quick to count visionary people out. Every time it feels like someone has gone quiet or disappeared from the spotlight, they often re-emerge having built something far bigger than anyone expected. That's exactly what we're seeing here. While people were focused on headlines and distractions, Kendrick appears to have been expanding his influence in ways most people never even considered. And at the end of the day, that's what separates great dreamers from everyone else. They don't just react to the moment, they build for the future. They create systems, opportunities, and ideas that continue growing long after the initial headlines disappear. That's why the biggest visionaries don't just influence their generation, they reshape the entire landscape around them. Now, with all of that being said, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Kendrick Lamar's growing partnership with the NBA and everything that's developing around it? How do you view the involvement of Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry, Dave Free, and everyone else connected to this movement? Do you think we're witnessing the beginning of something much larger, or do you see it differently?